3 weeks before Dolores Cannon died, she said something in her final session that made an entire room fall completely, devastatingly silent. She looked at everyone and she whispered, "I'm not worried about leaving. I'm worried about whether you received the message in time." Before I reveal what that message was, the one she considered so urgent she spent her final breath trying to make sure it reached you, I need you to do something right now. Place one hand on your chest. Feel your heartbeat, that rhythm, that warmth. And ask yourself this completely honestly. Have I been waiting for something? Some kind of permission, some kind of confirmation, some kind of sign that I'm on the right path? If even the smallest part of you said yes, write in the comments, "I'm ready for the message." Because that's exactly what you're about to receive. Dolores spent 45 years preparing it for you. She just needed you to be ready to hear it. Write it now before we go any further. Because what I'm about to share isn't just information. It isn't just content for you to scroll past and forget. This is the last transmission from a woman who spent her entire life as a bridge between the world you can see and the world your soul has always known existed. And she left it specifically for souls like you. Let me tell you about a woman the world underestimated for most of her life. Her name was Dolores Cannon. Born April 19, 1931 in St. Louis, Missouri. She grew up ordinary. She married a Navy man. She raised 4 children. She traveled the world as a military wife, living out of suitcases, adapting to new places, always moving. She was a grandmother. She baked things. She laughed easily. She had soft eyes and an Arkansas drawer that made everything feel safe. She did not look like someone who would decode the architecture of the human soul. She did not look like someone who would spend the next 5 decades conducting thousands of deep hypnosis sessions, retrieving information from the deepest layers of human consciousness and compiling the most extraordinary library of spiritual knowledge the modern world has ever seen. But that is exactly what she became. And the reason she became it has everything to do with a single night in 1968 when she put a woman into a trance and a voice came through that wasn't the woman's at all. A voice that knew things it shouldn't have known, that described places it couldn't have visited, that carried a wisdom so ancient, so precise, so utterly impossible to fabricate that Dolores Cannon realized in that moment that her ordinary life was over and something extraordinary had just begun. That was her gift. Not performing miracles, not making dramatic proclamations, not standing on stages and shouting at people. Her gift was listening with a depth of attention so profound that the universe itself seemed to lean in and whisper its secrets through the people she worked with. She developed her own hypnosis method, quantum healing hypnosis technique, QHHT, which allowed her to bypass the chattering, anxious surface of the human mind and drop directly into what she called the subconscious. Not the Freudian subconscious of repressed memories and childhood wounds. Something far more vast. The part of us that is directly, continuously, eternally connected to Source. The part that has never forgotten who it is. The part that knows everything. And through that part of thousands upon thousands of people across decades of relentless, meticulous, devoted work, Dolores assembled something the world had never seen. A map. A complete detailed cross-referenced map of the human soul's journey across time, dimensions, lifetimes, and realities. She wrote 19 books, 19 volumes of retrieved wisdom, each one denser and more breathtaking than the last. The Convoluted Universe, The 3 Waves of Volunteers, Between Death and Life, Conversations with Nostradamus, Legacy from the Stars, books that weren't written so much as received, transcribed, preserved for exactly this moment. Now, let me tell you about 2012. The year everything changed. Not with catastrophe, not with fireworks, not with anything the news could report, but with a profound and invisible shift in the very fabric of reality. 2012 was heralded across thousands of ancient traditions as a turning point for human consciousness. The Mayan calendar, the Hopi prophecies, Vedic texts, even modern quantum physicists tracking anomalies in Earth's electromagnetic field. They all pointed to the same window of time, the same aperture in history. Dolores knew this. She had known it for years because her clients, independently in sessions conducted years and decades apart, had been saying the same things, describing the same shift, warning about the same acceleration. And so in 2012, she gave what would become one of the most important, most watched, most soul-shattering talks of her entire career. A lecture she delivered with unusual urgency. A lecture recorded for posterity as transformation. An audience with Dolores Cannon. A lecture that covered everything. Life, death, reincarnation, manifestation, the new earth, the meaning of existence itself. She was 81 years old. She stood on that stage with the energy of someone who knew time was running out. Not for her, for the message, for the delivery, for making sure that what she carried inside her reached the people who needed it before it was too late. 2 years later, on October 18, 2014, Dolores Cannon passed away at Washington Regional Medical Center in Fayetteville, Arkansas. She was 83 years old, and the last great transmission of her life was already sealed into history, waiting for you to find it. Waiting for this exact moment when you would be ready to receive it. Now, here is where everything changes, because the last session, the final gift she gave humanity before she left, did not contain what people expected. People expected Dolores to give more techniques, more instructions, more information about dimensions and extraterrestrials and past lives and quantum healing, more data, more answers to the questions that had always driven her work. But that's not what she gave. What she gave instead was something so simple, so devastatingly, disarmingly simple that many people in that room had to look down at their hands because they couldn't hold her gaze while she said it. She said, "You already know everything I've been trying to teach you. You've always known. The only thing standing between you and your true life is the fear you keep choosing to believe is real. Let that land really land." After 45 years, after 19 books, after thousands of sessions with thousands of souls accessing thousands of dimensions and lifetimes, the greatest hypnotherapist who ever lived looked at humanity and said, "The answer was inside you all along, and fear is the only thing hiding it from you." In those final transmissions, Dolores kept returning to the same 4 words over and over, as if she were encoding them into the fabric of time itself, so they would survive beyond her body, beyond her books, beyond everything she had built. The 4 words were, release, forgive, love, remember, release everything that no longer belongs to you. The old stories, the old wounds, the old versions of yourself that you keep dragging forward like a ghost dragging chains. Release the belief that you are ordinary. Release the terror that you are not enough. Release the exhausting performance of being someone you were never meant to be. Forgive not for anyone else, not for the people who hurt you, not even because they deserve it. Forgive because the resentment you carry is a cage and you are the only one imprisoned inside it. Dolores said, "Forgiveness is not approval. Forgiveness is freedom. You forgive to set yourself free, not them love. Not the conditional contractual love the world taught you to perform. The love that has no opposite. The love that is your actual substance. That is what you are beneath every mask you've ever worn." Dolores encountered this love thousands of times in her sessions. She called it the one consistent truth across every lifetime, every culture, every dimension her clients ever accessed. The foundation of everything is love. Nothing else is ultimately real. And remember who you are. This was perhaps the most urgent word of all for Dolores. Not learn, not become, not achieve or prove or earn. Remember, because you didn't come here empty. You came here full, absolutely full of light, wisdom, purpose, power, and then the world spent years convincing you otherwise. And Dolores' entire life's work was a 45-year campaign to undo that lie. Here is something Dolores said that has never left me since the first time I heard it. She said that in all of her thousands of sessions across all of those lifetimes and dimensions and timelines, she never encountered a single soul that wasn't beautiful. Not one. Not the criminals who had explored past lives of violence. Not the people broken by trauma. Not the ones who thought themselves unworthy, unlovable beyond redemption. Every single soul she ever accessed at the level of the subconscious, at the level of the true self, was radiant, complete, perfect, already home. She said, "The subconscious never lies. And the subconscious has never once told me that a soul was anything less than magnificent." Think about what this means for you. You reading this right now with all your doubts and your private shame and the quiet voice inside you that sometimes says you aren't doing enough, aren't being enough, aren't enough, period. Dolores Cannon looked into the deepest level of thousands of human beings and found nothing but light. She would find nothing but light in you. She already did find light in you because she spent her entire career working for you for this moment, for this exact transmission to reach you at exactly the right time. Now, let me tell you what Dolores discovered about why you are alive at this exact moment in human history. Because this is the part that should make you cry, not from sadness, from recognition. According to thousands of regression sessions spanning decades, the souls incarnating on Earth right now, especially those drawn to this kind of teaching, especially those who feel the ache of something deeper, the hunger for something real, did not arrive here randomly. They volunteered before birth in a state of full cosmic consciousness, fully aware of what they were choosing, fully understanding the difficulty, the forgetting, the pain of incarnation. They raised their hand. They said, yes. They said, I want to go. I want to help. I want to be there for this shift. You chose this. You chose the specific family that would shape your wounds in exactly the right way. You chose the specific heartbreaks that would crack you open in exactly the right places. You chose the specific loneliness, the specific confusion, the specific sense of not belonging that would eventually drive you to look inward instead of outward, because looking inward is the only direction that leads home. Dolores said something that shattered me the first time I heard it. The volunteers didn't come to Earth to suffer. They came to remember. And suffering is simply what happens in the space between forgetting and remembering. You are in that space right now between forgetting and remembering. And the fact that you're watching this video, the fact that something in you was pulled toward these words, means the remembering is happening right now in real time in this very moment. There was a session Dolores described in her final years that she called one of the most extraordinary of her entire career. A woman came to her, middle-aged, ordinary life. No dramatic spiritual crisis, just a quiet, persistent feeling that something was waiting for her, something she couldn't name. Dolores put her under. And when the subconscious spoke, it didn't speak about past lives. It didn't speak about other dimensions or extraterrestrials or the new Earth. It said something so startlingly personal, so shockingly direct that Dolores sat very still for a long moment before she wrote it down. The subconscious said, "Tell her she is allowed to stop performing now. Tell her the role she has been playing for other people's comfort is not her true self. Tell her the life she built to be acceptable is not the life she came here to live. Tell her she is allowed. She is allowed to be real now." The woman wept for 40 minutes, not from grief, from relief. The kind of relief that only comes when something you've been holding for decades is finally set down. And Dolores said that this session represented something she had seen hundreds of times in different forms. The single greatest obstacle between human beings and their true purpose is not lack of skill, not lack of opportunity, not lack of intelligence. It is permission. We are all waiting for someone to tell us we are allowed to be who we actually are. Dolores Cannon spent 45 years being that someone. And through this video, through this transmission she left behind for exactly you, she is telling you right now, you are allowed. You are always allowed. And it's time. Let me tell you the thing about Dolores that breaks my heart in the most beautiful way. She couldn't keep what she discovered. She tried. In the early years, she tried to hold it privately, to process it carefully, to protect it from a world she feared wasn't ready. But the knowledge was too vast. The urgency was too real. It kept pouring out of her through books and lectures and sessions and interviews until she finally stopped trying to contain it. She gave everything she had, every last piece. She traveled the world well into her 80s, standing on stages in dozens of countries, repeating the same essential truth in hundreds of different ways, looking for the eyes in the audience that were ready, the souls that would receive the transmission and carry it forward. She slept badly in hotel rooms. She answered letters from strangers. She took clients who couldn't afford to pay. She kept records of sessions that spanned decades with meticulous care because she understood that this was an archive. That what she was building was not for the present. It was for the future. For the exact moment when enough humans had woken up enough to truly hear it. That moment is now. That moment is today. That moment is you watching this video feeling something in your chest that doesn't have a word yet, but that you recognize as true. Dolores left this for you. Not metaphorically, literally. She knew souls like you existed. She encountered thousands of them. She worked her entire life to speak directly to that part of you that already knows, that has always known, that simply needed someone to confirm. Yes, it's real. You were right. Everything you have ever felt about the deeper nature of reality is true. Now, let me tell you exactly what was in her final public transmission, the one she gave, knowing it would be among her last. She stood before the audience, and she began not with teaching. She began with a question. She looked at the room and she said, "How many of you have felt at some point in your life that you were living someone else's story? That somewhere along the way you took a wrong turn into a life that wasn't quite yours?" Almost every hand in the room went up. And Dolores smiled. Not a sad smile, a smile of recognition. The smile of someone who had been waiting a long time to say, "I know. I know exactly what that feels like. And I can tell you where that feeling comes from. And I can tell you how to find your way back." She explained that the feeling of living the wrong life is not pathology. It's not depression. It's not ingratitude. It is the soul's compass. It is your true self trying to navigate you back to the life you chose before you were born and then forgot when you arrived. She said, "The life you're supposed to be living isn't a fantasy. It isn't an impossibility waiting for perfect conditions. It's the life that emerges when you stop performing for the approval of people who aren't living your destiny and start listening to the part of you that has always known the way. The room was very quiet, the way rooms get when someone says something that everyone has always needed to hear. In the final years of her life, Dolores became urgent in a way her students had never seen before. Not frantic, not fearful, but with the kind of focused intensity that only comes to a person who can feel time narrowing. She said there were 3 things she needed humanity to understand. 3 things above all else. 3 things she would repeat until her last breath if she had to. The first, death is not what you think it is. It is not an ending. It is a transition so gentle, so natural, so suffused with light that the thousands of souls who described it to Dolores in her sessions consistently used the same word to describe the moment of crossing over. They called it relief, not trauma, not darkness. Relief, the way you feel when you put down something very heavy that you've been carrying for a very long time. The second, you are not your circumstances, not your body, not your diagnosis, not your bank account, not your relationship status, not the story your family told about who you were. You are the eternal soul wearing those things temporarily as a costume for this particular performance. The costume is not you. It was never you. And you can change the costume at any time by changing the frequency you choose to vibrate at. And the third, you are not alone. This one she said most frequently, most urgently with the most visible emotion. She had encountered in thousands upon thousands of sessions. The profound loneliness of the awakened soul, the devastating isolation of being someone who feels and perceives reality at a depth that most of the world simply doesn't share. And she wanted those souls, especially those souls, to know. You are surrounded. You are held. Your team on the other side is enormous. And they are working constantly on your behalf in the invisible spaces where you cannot see but can absolutely feel if you choose to. In her final transmissions, Dolores shared a method she said had produced the most profound transformation she had ever witnessed. Not QHHT, not a formal session, something anyone could do, something designed specifically for the souls who were awakening in this time. The ones who didn't need a therapist or a practitioner, the ones who simply needed permission and a doorway. She called it the subconscious conversation. And it works like this. Step 1, the silence before the world, before anything else in your morning, before your phone, before your obligations, before the world rushes in and fills you with its noise. Lie still. Not meditating, not doing anything. Simply lying still for 5 minutes in the borderland between sleep and waking where the subconscious is still warm and accessible and close. In that borderland, you are more yourself than at any other point in your day. Step 2, the question. In that stillness, ask one single question, not many questions. 1. The same question Dolores taught. What do I need to know today? Not what do you want? Not what should you do? What do you need to know? Then stop. Go completely quiet and listen not with your ears but with your entire body. The answer may come as a feeling, a word, a color, a sudden knowing that blooms in your chest like warmth. It will not come from your mind. It will come from somewhere deeper and calmer than your mind has ever been. Step 3, the trust. This is the hardest step. Whatever came through, no matter how simple, no matter how unexpected, no matter how much your rational mind wants to dismiss it as imagination, trust it. Write it down immediately. Honor it. Act on it if it asks to be acted on. Dolores said that the subconscious will always speak. But it will only keep speaking to those who demonstrate they are willing to listen. Every time you dismiss what comes through, you close the point taken channel a little more. Every time you trust it, you open it wider. Step 4, the forgiveness protocol. Each evening before sleep, Dolores taught a simple clearing. Place both hands on your heart. Take 3 deep breaths and say aloud or in your mind, but aloud is more powerful. I release everything from this day that no longer serves my soul. I forgive myself for every moment I forgot who I was. I am grateful. I am love. I am going home. She said these 7 lines repeated with sincerity, even imperfect sincerity, would over the course of 30 days rewire the emotional architecture of the person practicing them more profoundly than any amount of intellectual understanding ever could. Step 5, the declaration that anchors everything. Once a day, at any moment that feels right, speak these words with your full voice, with your full intention, with everything you have. I remember who I am. I know why I came. I am not afraid anymore. You don't have to believe them completely the first time or the 10th time. Dolores said, the power of this declaration is cumulative. Every time you say it, it becomes more true. Every time you speak it into existence, reality rearranges itself slightly in response. Because words spoken from the soul are not just communication, they are creation. I want to tell you something about Dolores Cannon that her students have shared since her passing. Something that reveals perhaps more than anything else who she truly was at her core. In the final months of her life, as her health was declining, her daughter and the people closest to her noticed something that they could only describe as peace. Not the peace of resignation. Not the peace of someone who has given up. The peace of someone who has finished, who has delivered the package, who has kept their promise. She wasn't afraid. At 83, after 45 years of looking directly into the mystery of death through thousands of regression sessions, after listening to thousands of souls describe the crossing over with identical words of peace and liberation and homecoming, she was not afraid. Her students report that she said in her final weeks, "I've been looking at what's on the other side for so long. It doesn't look like the end to me. It looks like what I've been working toward." She went home the way she had always described it, gently, like setting something down. And she left everything behind for you. Every session, every transcript, every teaching, every carefully recorded word of recovered wisdom. All of it left deliberately, meticulously, lovingly for the soul who would one day need it. For the soul who would be exactly where you are right now, reading these words, feeling something stir in a place too deep for language. If Dolores Cannon could sit across from you right now, if she could look at you with those soft, knowing eyes and speak to you directly as she spoke to thousands of clients over 45 years, she would not give you more information. She would not add more to what you already carry. She would take your hands and she would say something devastatingly simple. She would say, "You're doing better than you think you are." She would say, "The fact that you're searching means you're already finding. The fact that you're awake enough to feel the longing means you're awake enough to follow it home." She would say, "Stop waiting for the life that was meant for you to announce itself. It's already here. It's already happening. You're already in it. You just haven't fully chosen it yet." She would say, "Love yourself the way I have seen your soul from the inside, because from the inside you are breathtaking." And then she would lean forward, because this was the most important part. This was the whole transmission condensed to its essence. And she would whisper, "Release, forgive, love, remember. That's all. That has always been all. I need to say something to you before this ends. Something I need you to hear, not with your mind, but with the part of you that has always known things it couldn't explain. You did not find this video. This video found you at a time in your life when something inside you was ready. When something inside you had cracked open just far enough for the light to get in. When the universe had been conspiring for an unknown amount of time to arrange the precise sequence of events, the algorithm, the search, the suggestion, the idle moment, whatever it was that placed these words in front of your eyes at exactly this moment. Dolores would call this synchronicity. She would call it confirmation. She would call it your own higher self working overtime behind the scenes to make sure that the transmission reached you at the exact moment you were ready to receive it. There is no randomness here. There has never been any randomness in your life. Every moment that felt like chaos was from a higher perspective perfect architecture. Every loss that shattered you created the space for something truer to enter. Every ending that broke your heart was a beginning in disguise. And this moment, this one right here, where you are sitting with the words of a woman who devoted her life to reaching you, this is not an accident. This is a conversation that was scheduled long before you arrived on this earth. This is a message that has been traveling toward you across time, waiting for the exact moment when you would be ready to receive it. You are ready. You are always going to be ready. This is the moment. Dolores Cannon lived 83 years on this earth, and she spent 45 of them in service to one single truth. One truth so foundational, so undeniable, so confirmed by thousands of souls speaking from the deepest layer of their being that she never, not once, wavered in her certainty of it. The truth is this. You are eternal. You are loved. You are home. Not you will be home. Not you might be home if you do everything right. Not you could be home if you are worthy enough, spiritual enough, evolved enough. You are home now in this body, in this moment, in this seemingly ordinary life with all its confusion and beauty and ache and longing. The home you've been searching for isn't somewhere else. It's the frequency you've been touching in your greatest moments of stillness and love and genuine connection. It's what you feel when you forget to be afraid. It's what you are when you stop performing and simply exist. Dolores Cannon's last message for humanity was not complicated. It didn't require a special technique or a specific belief system or years of study. It required only this. Stop running from yourself. Turn around. What you've been searching for has been looking back at you the whole time. Write in the comments right now. I receive the message not as a performance, not for the algorithm, as a sacred declaration, as your soul's signature on the promise that you will carry this transmission forward, that you will live it, that you will be it, that you will remember and always remember the words Dolores left us, words she meant as a love letter to every soul she never got to meet. The awakening is the purpose, each cell of our body, each molecule of everything, the power source that runs all life is light. And you are that light. You have always been that light. You just forgot for a little while. And now it's time to remember. Welcome home, beautiful soul. You were never lost. You were always on your way here. And you arrived exactly on time. Recorded for the soul who needed to hear this today. You know who you are.